Broad Street Review podcast is an extension of Broad Street Review, Philly's home for arts, culture, and conversation, an online arts and culture journal covering the greater Philadelphia area. I'm your host, Darnell Radford.
Today on the podcast, Light Booth Blackouts Dave Ebersole and Mick Loro drop in to talk about the latest adaptation of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, presented at Lathem Hall, Widener University, in partnership with the Lone Brick Theater Company. Here is my interview with Dave Ebersole and Mick Loro for Frankenstein.
And welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Darnell Radford, and today I am in the virtual studio with yet another interview. October is shaping up to be quite a busy one for theater, which is always great for us when our houses are full of people who bought tickets. And so today we're going to talk about Frankenstein. We're going to talk about a new adaptation. And I am in the virtual studio with Dave Ebersole and Mick Loro. So welcome, gentlemen. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So Dave, it's been a while since I've touched base with you in front of microphones. So welcome back to a podcast with me, at least.
Thank you. It's good to be back on a podcast with you.
So I know a lot about what you've been doing, but tell our audience what you've been up to, who you are and what you're up to.
Sure. My name is Dave Ebersole. I am a theater director, playwright, educator, and podcast maker as well. I'm also write comic books, and I have several graphic novels out there. And I have been doing making theater, creating theater, also creating podcasts now with this gentleman, who is Mick Loro.
Hello.
And so Mick and I have been, he's been not just the sound designer, but the composer for a lot of the plays that I've been doing for almost 10 years. I should say we've been doing, because a lot of for me, my work as a director and as a theater maker really starts in the room with Mick. I'm a very audio person. Like, I want to know what a play sounds like before I know how to put it on its feet. And that's usually where our work comes in. So, Mick.
Yeah, this production is actually full circle, because the very first time I worked with Dave, we were doing a version of a reading of Angels in America. He came to me and he's like, you want to write a score for this and play it live? And I'm like, okay, sure. And that's what we're doing with Frankenstein. I will actually be playing live during the play.
Awesome. That's great. We always love live music. I always think everything needs to be underscored. You know, I love when scenes just have, like, there's a soundscape underneath, because it just makes it feel less like, it feels more full. I like that.
For a play like Frankenstein, for a story like Frankenstein, there's so much atmosphere that kind of almost inherent with the story. With, when you think of Frankenstein, you automatically you can hear what it sounds like. Here at Widener, I'm also teaching Frankenstein. I'm an adjunct professor here. And the first time I said, hey, we're going to be talking about this, they already were talking to me about scary music. How, like, what does it sound like, right? And I relate to that so much, because that's where I start as an artist. I never was a musician, and I really want to be. Yeah, but so that's why I think this partnership that Mick and I have been working together for so long.
Yeah, I have such an appreciation for musicians. I attempted the piano several times. I continue to own a piano. My partner is a very good piano player. But I just admire that. I'm sure I can get over the hump and get there. but I'm just in awe of everything they're able to do, because music, I don't know, it's like, I remember from the musical Fame, there's sort of like what do you call it? There's a counterpoint in Hard Work, where they talk about which genre is the hardest profession in the world. So it's like acting, dance, or music. And so they're kind of like shouting at each other. It's like acting, dance, music's the hardest profession in the world. The hardest profession is acting, dance, music. And they keep going through it. But I'm like, it's music. It's music. Now, it can be dance too, because you do have a limited amount of time for your body to do its best work. Not that you can't perform well into your golden years, but just maybe not, 8 shows a week.
Some of the physical stuff that we're doing here that the actors are attempting, there's been just some amazing fight choreography by Quinn. The actors are just throwing themselves all over the floor, and I'm just like, oh, I'm too old for this. and also, like, when did I get too old for this?
Yeah. It's like a celebration. That's the part where I love sort of like breaking the wall and be like, did you see that? Like, to the audience, I'm sorry, I just have to pause for a minute. Not do that. Don't do that.
Well, it's just like they do it with such grace, and they're, we've been working quite hard at it. But I was just yesterday, I was like, are you okay? They'd be like, yeah, well, oh, okay.
Yeah. So this is an adaptation. So what prompted your interest in adapting Frankenstein instead of just picking one of the existing?
I've kind of been in conversation with this story. I think we're all in some weird conversation with Frankenstein. The other day, I had a coworker was talking about putting two things together, and she literally said, just going to Frankenstein it together, which is like, it's a verb now, right? And when we think about it, I've always, like, since I was like a very little kid, I've been just enamored with the universal, like, like when you think about, the Boris Karloff movies. And I think so many stage productions, like, try to get, like, go against that and try to, capture what Mary Shelley wrote. But what Mary Shelley wrote, it's very vague. It's very vague. I mean, at one point, Victor Frankenstein says it's the fine form of man, right? He made, like, it's beautiful teeth, flowing black hair. But then at the same time, he's calling it a monster at the same time. And for me, I'm like, what is the monster? Is it what you made? Or is it the fact that you can't take responsibility for what you made? And that's what the monster is. So for our production, I wanted you to be able to project what you bring in the room onto the play. So I casted it, that's a word, right? The way I cast it, you would think who was playing what we're calling the creation. When you look at Noah Mary, you would think, oh, he would be Victor. And when you look at Tom Irvin, you would think, oh, just because of Tom's sheer size compared to Nolan's, you would think that I would have the roles flipped. And I think that for me, that really kind of gets into the conversation about who really is the monster in her tale. And for me, it's, of course, it's a little vague, but for me, it's really a story about responsibility for what we make. I relate to it a lot as an artist, because we were talking about earlier how before we got on air, how busy we all are, right? and what that does. And as artists, we tend, a lot of us, like, we're operating in gig work, we're operating project to project. How that takes over our lives, our brains, our soul, and how that affects everyone we love, right? Living with an artist, is a job in itself. So for me, like, that's kind of where I approached it. Like, I feel like for me, just being a creator right now is like, I have to be able to take responsibility for what I'm doing, from myself and the people who I love, and what I put out there in the world. I need to make sure that I'm doing it to the best of my ability. And even for this play, it's been a labor of really trying to hone in on that, right? And that's kind of where I come at with it.
Yeah. Are there any productions or iterations of Frankenstein that resonate with you more?
So, yes and no.
Or less.
All of it. So for this production, it's kind of Frankenstein in itself. So we took a lot. I took a lot of what Mary Shelley wrote, and it's in the play. There's a lot of adaptations. At some point, I believe it's Mary Shelley lived to see that there were at least 5 productions or five adaptations of her play. Of her book, running in London all at the same time. And so we, and they were ridiculous, right? They were ridiculous. And, she wrote that she was delighted, which is cute, right?
Yeah.
So we, I took some of the songs from, one of the very early productions, and put it in. And also, there's also a lot of modern dialogue that I brought into it. There's also some, again, you come into the room with maybe Boris Karloff in your head, you're going to see that, you're going to see a lot of nods to that pop up in there, but maybe not in the way that you think you would. And that's kind of ultimately my point, is that what if, we're in this, we're talking about AI, and it's almost like, what if you typed in Frankenstein wrong into AI, right? What would you get? In the first iterations of this script, that's kind of what came up for us, because it's a hodgepodge of everything. And what I tried to do is kind of take something that Mary Shelley was talking about. And my dramaturg, Bridget Doherty, worked with me pretty intensely on it, because I'm not just writing, I'm directing the play as well. So the dramaturg is very important in that aspect. But we kind of uncovered that it's a play about fathers and sons with the absence of mothers. And if you look at Mary Shelley's history, she lost her mother. There was an absence of mothers. She lost a lot of children. What does that mean? And that popped up for me in a really surprising way, especially with the character of Elizabeth. How Elizabeth is treated in the novel, how Mary Shelley treats her in the novel, what we did with her afterwards, and then we kind of think about this image of the bride, right? The bride of Frankenstein, but she never gets to talk, right? Mm-hmm. Never gets to talk. So in this production, we really kind of go head on with that, right? And Elizabeth, I feel, gets to tell her side of the story just as much as Victor, and just as much as who Victor creates.
Yeah. Okay. What do most people get wrong about Frankenstein?
Exactly who is Frankenstein? They think Frankenstein is the monster. Or the creation, as we're calling it.
Yeah. I always feel like it should be brought up in a conversation. We need to remind people all the time.
Yep.
Because it's October, so we will see a lot of people dressed up, and they will say, "I'm Frankenstein," and when really they are the creature.
There's this really wonderful meme that it just has the last couple sentences of the book, which is the creature jumping out of the boat and sailing off into the Antarctic. And then someone wrote in pencil, "And it's okay if you call me Frankenstein." I actually wanted to see. I for a hot second I tried to figure out how I could fit that in there, but I didn't.
So take us into first, how long did it take for you to compile the adaptation? How when did you start? When did it finish? Or is it still in progress?
I mean, it's still in progress. It's a new play, right? New plays are only done when you're done with them, right? Mm-hmm. So I've been working on this about 2 years. The actor who's playing Victor, Tom Irvin, and I have been trying to work. Tom and I've been doing readings, and we have an audio podcast that we do that Tom is on, but we haven't actually done a live production in almost 11 years together. The last one was Pillow Man by Mark McDonough. So I had this image of this guy laying under a white sheet, and just people walking into the auditorium. And that's kind of where it started. And I did not expect to get as deep into the novel as I did, and pull out as much from the novel as I did. And that surprised me, but it's been really wonderful work. I feel like Mary Shelley's been, a wonderful and obnoxious writing partner that I've been working with. So that's been fun. But we've been working about it for about 2 years. We started really kind of intensely working with the actors in March, on and off with readings in houses and at tables, and I did a whole reading with a group of a playwriting group that community that I'm part of, and just took the feedback and have gone from there.
Cool. Let's talk about composition. Mick, I always ask what comes first. Like how did you begin to craft the music for this?
I listened to 2 or 3 of the readings. Me and Dave had talked about it, and it's probably, again, not what people would expect when you're going to hear this, anybody that comes, because it was Dave's idea, really, and I just ran with it, to take almost an 80s synth pop theme towards all of the music in this, aka Stranger Things. But there's movement. There's not necessarily drums, but there's some kind of synthesizer that's keeping some sort of rhythm, and a lot of pads and a lot of minor keys.
Great. How many, are there individual tracks? Like how many bits make up the overall composition?
Probably all in total 15. I try and work with themes, regardless of what I've done with Dave. It always comes down to every character, or almost every character, will have a theme, and that will come back from time to time. I wrote 12 original pieces. We're using 10 of them, and in the process, I wrote additional pieces for Elizabeth, for Justine. I think we just came up with one for Igor. So,
wow. So because we were talking about music, this was I remember being 7, right? Mm-hmm. We had this collection of music videos, and one of the videos was "Doing It All for My Baby" by Huey Lewis and the News. And I remembered that was a whole Frankenstein video.
What's it?
Kind of. Well, kind of. It was very, yeah. That was its theme.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. Look it up. You'll see it when you're like, oh, wow, that's right. I just, as you were talking about it, I was like, wait a minute. Wasn't that the video's juxtaposition was that? Definitely look it up. Videos, it's out there on YouTube, I'm sure.
You just sparked a memory. Yeah. Guy and I do remember, MTV and all of that back in the day. So, yes,
yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So now everything is together. Let's talk a little bit more about the characters altogether, and what we might already know about them and what we're gonna learn in this piece.
So for me, obviously, Victor Frankenstein, name of the play, right? Name of the play.
Who's that guy?
Yeah. And, some of the people call what he makes the monster, or the the creature. We're calling him the creation, because I only felt that was fair. But he's never actually called that in the play. In the original 1931 movie, there's a question mark over next to Boris Karloff's name, and the same with the bride in the next one, right? Mary Shelley herself said, like, when she saw the first production, which was the Presumption of Frankenstein, it's something like that. But they didn't have a name for him either, and she said he shouldn't have a name because he was never given one. That's how careless Victor is with what he makes. So I think a lot of that theme really kind of spawned off for me with the characters. So like you have characters like we were talking earlier about Igor, who doesn't really show up until the movies and until later movies actually. But in the earlier incarnations of the book being adapted to a play, he's called Fritz. So, and what we think of is Marty Feldman, right? Young Frankenstein. We think of. So that was fun to kind of take a bunch of that and kind of create its own character. And a lot of these characters, for me, like they're doubled because there's two sides of them. So everyone other than Victor plays two different characters. So, for example, Victor's father, played by Walter McCready, also plays the blind, right? He also plays the blind man, and we remember, the blind man from Bride or Gene Hackman and Young Frankenstein. But we also, he is a very, the monster or the creature, whatever you want to call him, learns from him in the book. So we see that relationship in comparison to what the Victor and his father's relationship are. And then we have Elizabeth, who, as I said earlier, I wanted to bring the Bride of Frankenstein in this somehow, but I didn't know how, right? And Britt Hauser, who plays Elizabeth, mentioned to me, as we were going through the readings, she put forth the idea to me, like, what if she is the same person, and not in the way that Kenneth Branagh envisioned it in his adaptation of Frankenstein, but like, what if the ramifications of what Victor does and what she has to put up with? What if that's what if that in turn, maybe that makes her a monster, right? Yeah. In turn, then makes her a monster. And what came up in the readings of this was the Frankenstein is a family that makes monsters. They're in the business of making monsters. That's what some feedback I got, and I'm like, I love that. So I'm taking the lines. The line ends up in, but that's a kind of almost a through line that everything spirals off of.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about the production elements, like scenic design and the lighting? Like what are we in for?
So everyone, people think of Frankenstein and you have these images of like these big electronic devices, right? Laboratories and things. And Mary Shelley, and Mary Shelley herself, like, if you actually kind of break it down what she's talking about, and she's very vague, like incredibly, she almost goes, and anyway, like with how this actually happens. So I'm doing it very minimalistically, and as the older I get, the more I'm drawn to minimal theater, the more I'm drawn to the actors and how they relate to each other on stage. So for something like this, something where, like I said, where everyone's coming in the room with an idea, right? They're coming in the room with, like, they have an idea of Frankenstein, where I'm giving them almost a whole canvas to project what they want to project onto the story, and then hopefully be surprised. So it's very minimal. The costumes are very minimal. We're taking a very big risk, and the makeup. I feel like if you go one way or the other with the makeup, you have to go all the way. I've seen of production photos where, like, the guy has like a scar or something. And so I cast that as the actors, right? The actors. There's no need for makeup because they do it themselves.
Great. Yeah, I like the simplicity of a production as well. Sometimes less is more. And if you are definitely, you want to focus on the adaptation itself and all of its elements, and you don't want to be completely taken over by too much scenic design.
Also, like, we're in the round too.
Mm-hmm.
So we're
So that works.
So,
Absolutely.
like, I'm not disguising, like, some,
Can you imagine a set in the round just constantly, walls on wheels, moving things around a lot?
No, thank you. No, thank you. Thank you. I have a playwright friend who says I have I'm anti doors because I don't have doors in the show.
Yeah. So what is I honestly, the whole time I've been here in Philly, I don't think I've ever been to Widener.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the campus like in terms of how it supports theater?
Well, I'm new here, so we had Robert Reuter runs Lombard Theater here. He's a English professor here. They do not have a theater program proper, so it is a group. It is a student group that he runs, which they're also doing a production of Neighborhood 3. That kind of goes up in between our, we start previewing October 8th, we go until the 11th, and then they run October 12th through the 15th, and then we pick back up on the 16th and run through the 20th. So it's a lot of theater for here, probably maybe a little bit more theater than they have seen in a couple of years, which is, exciting, and it's great. And the, at least my students and the students that have helped us and volunteered, they seem very enthused and very to be a part of it. So that's exciting. So it's kind of almost bringing theater back here a little bit, with us having 2 productions happening at the same time.
Yeah. This one's for Mick. In terms of composing, was there anything left on the cutting room floor? And if so, what do you plan to do with that?
There's always something left on the cutting room floor. I've got so many files in my computer of every project I've done with Dave. I'm a keyboard player. I started on guitar. I write my own music, so there's always those files. There's stuff that you come back to, but there's a lot of stuff that we tried it out during rehearsals, and some of it worked, some of it didn't work. So, you move to plan B.
What particularly inspires you as a musician?
Oh my God.
I'm digging deep here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how I can tap into my inner musician.
It inspires me. I'm no stranger to be playing on stage, and currently I'm in a Journey tribute band, and for the past 12 years, and I would always say, and it's cliche, but people's response to the music, regardless of whether it's a part of a theatrical production, if it's me on stage with the band, if I go out and just noodle around on a piano in front of a couple people, it's feeding off the audience. It is not lost on me. And I've played in front of almost 9,000 people at one point, and everything that I've heard every musician say is absolutely true. When you hear music back to you, that many people at once, it sort of hits you in the feels.
Yeah. And so what is the name of your tribute band?
Oh, Separate Ways, the band. Thank you for that.
Yes. Cool. Like even if you didn't write the song, like you're presenting the song, and so you're giving it to this audience, and they're moved by it. Yeah. It must be amazing to be able to play. I love that too. Like, it almost feels like we're all a bunch of drones, when we're just singing. So it's nowhere near Journey, but I'll tell you that my partner bought us tickets to Charlie XCX.
Oh, okay.
And the Troye Sivan concert, and I was just blown away that there were this many fans in the area, but also how they were like drones singing all these songs, and I was just like, wow, I can't believe I know Troye Sivan's music. I didn't know a whole lot about Charlie, but the fact that everybody knew those songs and all the inflections, every moment, and they were doing like choreography from videos and so on. It's like you have no idea how much of we put this together. We presented it from start to finish, and it reached somebody, and it reached so many people. And it's that music. You're just walking down the street, just humming it and everything. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's some people that might just quote, lines from plays a lot, but not like we continuously return to songs we love. I think the power of music is it underlines everything, and it sometimes informs the message that we're trying to deliver anyway. So yeah,
I think it's no different than working in theater and with a play. One of the biggest compliments I can get at a show is, "Oh my God, you sparked so many memories for me."
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
I'm transported in time.
You know what? I'm 58 years old, and I remember watching, working on this production with Dave. It brought back so many memories of me on Saturday afternoon in front of the TV watching Creature Double Feature and all and all of the vampires. So
yeah,
my wheelhouse.
Cool. And I love the inclusion of 80s synth pop. It does feel like these stories are fitting for the 80s. I don't know, maybe it's because I was born in 1980, and a lot of this is like I remember growing up and being introduced to these things for the first time at a young age. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about this production?
Yeah,
and then I'll ask how we get involved.
Yeah, I think I think there's a lot of things that are surprising in this production. I think there's things that are we're tapping into stuff that Mary Shelley threw in there that have been covered, but like haven't been covered in this way. So when it comes to the role of women in this story, when it comes to sexuality in this story, when it comes to diversity in the story, we're really trying to touch on what that means, and what that means walking out into a world where you have to take responsibility for the things that you make.
Mm-hmm. There was something else I was going to ask.
There's so much to that. There's so much there's I feel like every time we leave rehearsal, they're like, "Oh, there's one more thing. There's one more." Mm-hmm. This is just there's just so much. There's just so much to this.
Well, if I remember it, I will shoot you an email on it. Okay, so how can our listeners engage in this production?
So you can go to lightboothblackout.com, one word, to get tickets. We have a preview 8th and 9th, and we run 10th and 11th. And then 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th. 2 shows on that day, and then we close on the 20th. Cool. So please come on out. Also, if you're out this way, also check out Lone Brick Theater. They're doing Neighborhood 3, all student production. And we're hoping you come out. It's about an hour. It's about an hour and 45 minutes, and it's I think it's touching. I think it's scary, and I think it's also funny too. So.
Cool. The question I was going to ask you is, can you? We have tied Frankenstein to Halloween. Mm-hmm. Is that fitting? And can you see it presented in any other time of year?
It just works so well around October.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I think, there's the themes of this resonate all throughout the year. Mm-hmm. But she wrote it almost like a bet, you know. She was 19 with Lord Byron and her husband and several other people as who could write the scariest story. Right. That was the point of it, which has sparked a lot of people consider this to be the birth of science fiction right now. So she tried and she said, like, I think what finally sparked it for her and sparked like was she saw these yellow eyes, right, in a dream, or so I think it started in like the spookiness, right? It started in the spookiness. So but also Easter's kind of spooky, so maybe that.
I know. There's just some plays that, like, when they're presented in January, you're like, why? Like, why'd you do it now? Like, what was fitting about this now? Or like when there's a Christmas themed play, but it's in like March, it's just like, often when there's a tour where the tour is a very specific theme, but it's still touring all over the place. Yeah.
It always feels weird when like it's like a family drama or something. It's set at Christmas and it's like, in May or something, right? Like, so
yeah, it's like when you see Rent, it's at some time other than Christmas, because it's bookended by Christmas, and so if it does it, even though they're measuring a year, it fits any time of the year, but it starts at Christmas, so it feels like it should fit. Okay, the production is Frankenstein. It is directed and adapted by Dave Ebersole. I've been saying Ebersole the whole time, sorry. Music by Mick Laurel. And you can get tickets by going to lightboothblackout.com. There will be a link for tickets there. The show is running October 10th through the 20th on various dates. And we'll have links to all this information on in the show notes. And you can learn about the Lone Brick Theater Company through the Facebook link, right? Yeah. Facebook link there. Dave, Mick, thank you so much for reaching out, for one, and adapting this piece, another, and presenting it at Widener, another, and giving us an opportunity to take a drive. So everyone listening, go to the website and buy tickets. Buy more than one, because theater is more fun with a +1. So thank you, Dave and Mick, for meeting with me today. It was truly a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to our guests, Dave Ebersole and Mick Laurel, for joining us on today's podcast. The Broad Street Review podcast is an Emory production. If you would like to be a guest on the podcast, visit us online at em3ry.com. Get involved with Broad Street Review. Head on over to their website at www.broadstreetreview.com and click Get Involved at the top. While you're there, help keep us running and click Donate to find out how. There you will also find our social media links. Thank you for your part in keeping the conversation going.